Welcome back. I'm your host, Corey Marcus.
And I'm your host, Felicia Marcus.
And you are now tuned into another episode of Pineapples and Palm Trees podcast. So today, we're going to start off with a icebreaker question. And it reads, what did your 15-year-old self imagine you'd be doing right now?
Oh, Lord. 15-year-old me. I don't know. I think when I was 15, I don't necessarily remember being 100% decided on like what I wanted to do later in life. Definitely wasn't what I currently do because I was afraid of other people's opinions during that time.
Yeah.
And even now, like we were actually talking about this past weekend during the event, how like when people first find out like where we work, they immediately are like, ooh, like a frowned upon thought.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fine. But
Like that's for high school kids.
Exactly. But I'm like, hey, but that check though.
Right. So there's a whole business behind this.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I definitely thought I'd probably be in like the medical field, which I still have like my, my little background in medical field. But, yeah, I think it was just because I was trying to be not necessarily somebody for everybody else, but was trying to be like if you're a nurse, everybody thinks highly of you and things of that nature. Yeah. And it's like, great, but like, this is still just as good, if not better. So, nice. Yeah. So I definitely, 15-year-old me was probably very undecided. And I don't think.
Heck yeah.
Was not what I thought.
15-year-old me, I don't really remember too much about 15. Other than, I think that was freshman, sophomore year of high school.
It's freshman year.
I decided to start playing baseball again. And I really didn't know where I would be at right now. I knew I wanted to help people because growing up, I seen a lot of people that needed help.
Yeah. And
I figured, hell, if I can go get the information and bring it back and help, that's what I'm going to do. So I did accomplish that.
Yeah.
It's just translating that translating that message into something that resonates with everybody that they'd want to grab.
That makes sense.
But yeah, definitely wanted to help people. And if I wasn't a professional baseball player, I wanted to be in the medical field just because there's no job shortage and the mind is very intriguing.
That is very true. There was everybody always told us as kids, like, hey, the medical field's a guaranteed job.
Never going to run out of business.
Yeah, never. But it's like, yeah, but it's also mentally draining.
Very much so. Because like when we were younger, drugs were they're not cool, but they're glorified in songs and different things. So we would take drugs. Mm-hmm. And then like you would see people like they couldn't handle it. And then they'd become addicted and their life would spiral out of control. And a lot of people just think that you stop the drug. Yeah. So that was a great learning experience for me and something that I'm able to help people realize now. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd definitely say, obviously, my backstory and things with drugs. I never was on them or never did them. Still to this day, haven't really. But that has a lot to do with like my growing up with a drug addict as a parent. So everybody, I definitely, me, I was always the one harping on everybody. Don't do drugs.
Oh yeah. I remember in seventh grade, seventh grade, we're sitting at the lunch table and you were going in about not having friends that do drugs. You're not going to be around nobody that does this and this and this. And, whenever you found out that I partake in marijuana, I thought our friendship was done.
I thought everybody was, but
they said, what is going on here?
Yeah. At the time though, I was also made to believe that like marijuana was the same thing as heroin.
Yeah.
If you smoked marijuana, well, you were a heroin addict and you were
the worst of the worst.
Yeah. You were going nowhere in life. So it obviously took me becoming, I guess even outside of high school, I forgot. I graduated.
A full adult.
Yeah, I was a full adult before I ever even attempted anything.
Yeah.
I just realized that I thought I was still in high school, but no, I was not. Yeah, that's shocking actually for me to realize right now. I was like, oh man.
And you weren't a teenager anymore either.
No, I wasn't.
So it was like adult.
Yeah, I was definitely like out of my mom's house.
Yeah.
Almost about to have my first child. Like,
sheesh, mamish.
Yeah, and then I finally had to realize, like, hey, there's people that smoke weed that aren't drug addicts and they're not heroin addicts, and they go to work and they function every day like a normal human being.
Which also sign out, if you're struggling with addiction, do yourself a favor. Please go get help in some sort of fashion, way, shape, or form. Anonymously, friend, family, foe, take the step. It's hard, but take it. Yeah. Back to what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying, like, it took me obviously that long to realize the difference in people who actually do drugs that can't function and people that smoke weed and function perfectly fine every day.
And go ahead.
No, I was just saying, as a child, like, I was basically told, like, if you smoked weed, you couldn't function. So and it's crazy because at the time, like, my parents were like secretly smoking in the garage on weekends and things. It's like, what in the world?
And it's like there are people out there who are functioning addicts of some sort, alcohol, pills, what may have you, and they think their life is totally fine and they're good the way they are, but we don't really understand that, like, it's still a crutch. It's 100%. Still something that's blocking other things that are good to come into your life. Even if you can function fantastic on it, go to work, pay your bills, parties, friendships.
A lot of people don't even necessarily realize that they're addicts, but like I had heard somebody say one time, they were like, if it alters your mood, whether or not you have it or not, that's a problem. Yeah. And that's basically an addiction, because it shouldn't determine how your outlook on that day lies as to whether or not you have that glass of alcohol or those pills or what have you. Like, if that's literally changing your mood for the day, it's a problem.
Yeah. And some people, they won't even hang out with other people but won't accept it.
Oh, I know.
Like, well,
crazy.
I can't do that right now because I got to go do this, but maybe afterwards. It's like, well, can't be that way. Can't be functioning that way at this event or this place we're going, because they ain't gonna let you on no rides and no amusement park. They ain't gonna let you do certain things at certain places. But moving on to my next question, what is the worst pickup line that you've ever heard?
Oh my Lord. Thankfully, I guess I'm not very approachable because I've never been approached with a pickup line.
Very not approachable. Even as your husband. Very not approachable. But
I think that, to me, that's a good thing, because I could not imagine having to be approached by some of these guys that I hear women get approached by. And I'm just like, man, that's truly embarrassing, because I'm not a very nice person. So I would probably tell them about themselves and it'd probably end ugly. But I don't know. Like, I've never had one used on me, but I think any pickup line is pretty cheesy.
Yeah.
So
I don't really know if I've used a pickup line. Maybe like a hi or a hey or something along that nature. Yeah. I don't ever think I've used a pickup line. I don't even think I've ever even hit a DM. Jeez.
Yeah, slid in nobody's DMs.
That was before.
That was, honestly, I was going to say you weren't.
That was before my time.
Yeah, I was going to say, since
I didn't really get on social media aside from Facebook. I didn't have anything until
well after we were together.
Yeah, because I didn't know how to work at one, and I didn't.
You weren't interested. Even in the beginning of our relationship, you were not interested in social media whatsoever.
I seen how much destruction it caused people's relationships, and I was like, that's not me.
Yeah.
Let me stay off the fuck. Let me stay the fuck off of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it saved me a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Sheesh mamish. If you could receive a psychic ability for dating, what would it be?
Ooh.
Psychic ability.
Oh God, I don't know.
I'm going to tell you mine first.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah,
I would have the ability to know if somebody was being genuine with me. Psychic ability to know if somebody was being genuine with me. Oh, sorry if that cut out on y'all.
Okay. I was kind of thinking that, but because mainly I just want to I would want to be able to know, like, I guess, yeah, it would be the same thing, like whether or not, I wouldn't say honest, but like, if they're like, oh, I love you, like, do they really?
Yeah,
or are they just saying that kind of thing?
Yeah. History has taught me not to trust people.
I mean, yeah.
So it's like, I'd want to know if somebody was being genuine or just saying it because they had ulterior motives or trying to get somewhere in life and they needed me to get there.
That or if they, excuse me, sorry. What was I going to say? Not trying to use you, but like they'd want to say it, like say you tell somebody that you love them and they feel obligated to say it back instead of feeling bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like if I tell you I love you and you don't love me back, then don't be afraid to be like, oh, thank you. Like,
yeah,
I appreciate it, but I don't feel the same. Like,
because love, like people take love because love is a feeling. And like, I feel the love I have for you, but love embodies like so much more than just the way I feel for you.
Yeah.
And it has to be with the words I use. It has to be with the behavior I exhibit. It has to be with what you do in the relationship and trusting you and believing you and everything that comes with it. And people you shouldn't have to go through the ringer to keep love around, because too many people are like, oh, we've been through everything and like I have to do this, rather than relationships don't have to be toxic and then get better. They can have misunderstandings and disagreements and work through those and get better, but cheating and lying and or stealing, you don't have to go through all that and then say, well, I forgave him, our love is strong. Some people do. Yeah. But I think that's a normal thing of like, well, they did it and they're working better. Oh, they did it again. It's okay. Blah, blah, blah. And people stick to that narrative of it has to be bad to get good.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying.
So like you don't have to have a bad relationship to have a good relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I do find it weird when I've met couples that are like, oh, we've never fought. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, which one's a pushover? And I don't mean that rudely. Like, there was this one couple that always comes to my mind, and it's my mom's best friend from my childhood. And like, they were together for, 20 some odd years, and they never fought. Like, it made them physically ill to be upset with each other, which is cute and all, but like, what? Is that, I mean, I've only ever met like maybe 2 couples like that.
Are you agreeing with everything your partner's saying?
That's what I'm saying. Cause like to me, that means you're not necessarily being you, but they were also 20 years apart. So like while they had been together for like 20 years, they were 20 years apart. So when he met her, she was, I want to say in her 40s and he was in his 20s. And so like, and like, obviously he's still around, like she's passed, rest in peace her, because she was the sweetest lady in the whole world. But like, he's still around. And I mean, he still talks to my mom, still hangs out and all that.
That could be a huge maturity thing though, because women are much more mature than men in all aspects of life. And, having an older woman around, like women are more directive. And I mean that as like, I think one of our previous episodes is like, I have a vision. I see everything where our life is going. However, you're directing it. You can make the moves possible to get us there. I can just tell you where we need to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's, women have a keen sense of putting things together. And at that age, like,
guys definitely don't.
Yeah, guys don't. But when you're with a woman, like an older woman, you have to step your game up.
Yeah, true.
And step your mind up to either have those conversations or anything like that. And plus they got experience. Life experience, relationship experience.
I was going to say she had a kid the same age as him, which is, I want to say how they met, if I'm not mistaken. Like she was going to the fair with her kid and he was his friend or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, it was cute. And he was like, he said literally the first time he ever looked at her, I was like love at first sight. And he said he started like going over to his house all the time or something. And like, it wasn't for the kid, it was for him or for her. And he told her that, and she was like, oh, stop it. You know how like older women, they're like, oh, stop it, little boy. And he was like, not being for real, like,
we need to do this.
Yeah. And so they ended up getting married and lasted until she passed away.
I didn't know they were that far apart.
Yeah. I think you know who I'm talking about too.
Yeah. I just didn't know they were that far apart. I thought they were closer in age.
Yeah, no, it was wild. She had a kid the same age as him. Yeah.
How do you handle criticism with people you love or respect the most?
Yeesh, I don't very well. If we're being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that I struggle with that area greatly just because I'm a big person on trying not to let people down. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like if somebody I love or somebody I care about is criticizing me, I let them down. And so it kind of is like a gut punch to me.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I never really, like, until you asked that, I never really thought of it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's definitely, I wouldn't say I'm a people pleaser, but I kind of am. Like, I definitely want everybody to be happy. And I always want to do a really good job at anything that I do.
Lately, you've been putting yourself first though. In the past, since you've been gone for work, it's definitely good. But it definitely, from my perspective, it's helped you learn and see that, I hate the word people pleaser, but you want to make the environment and the people you're around happy. And especially at work, like you want to prove that you're doing your job. You want to prove that you're worthy of doing the position that you're in. But at the same time, like you have to do the things that make you happy. You have to say no to certain things because they don't align with how you're feeling or what you want to do at that time. Yeah. So that's always good.
And I've definitely like had those areas of like we call it coaching at work whenever we get criticized, but it's called coaching because we're there just making you better. Yeah. I've had those moments at work where it's like, yo, you're doing too much, if that makes sense. And I'm like, how? And they're like, because like that's over the top. Like you got to sit back, you got to chill. Like,
interesting.
Yeah. And so like, I definitely know like that's just somewhere I struggle in all aspects, whether it be like home or family or work life. Like I struggle with always trying to make everybody happy and like doing too much that sometimes it is at a fault to me. If I don't know if that's the right thing. Like, yeah, I'm not necessarily thinking about myself in those moments.
And like with our work, you recently discovered the word change, but language. Yeah. Learning that coaching opportunities of, what are they called? Areas of opportunity.
Oh, areas of opportunity, yeah.
You have areas of opportunity that you can work on. And oftentimes, like in our personal life, we're like, you should probably work on that. People are like, what? Something's wrong with me? I'm doing this wrong? And it's like, no, but you could work on that for you. And people often get stuck of, I'm changing for them. I think we had that conversation before. I'm changing for them and not for me. But in the end, like, it's for you. Yeah. For sure.
And I think it's hard to see whenever it comes from somebody that like you're dating, because it does feel like you're trying to change to fit to what they want. And it's not necessarily that, because like I've had areas where like things you've brought to my attention that I need to work on are also things that are brought to my attention that I need to work on at work too. And I'm like, oh, so it's just me in general. It's not just like you or, you know, our relationship or what have you. It's just how I function as a person that other people see like, hey, I used to be that way and now I'm this way. Yeah. It could benefit you as well, because I see a lot of me in you and that type of thing.
And it's not like you're wrong. You're not, it's not like people are telling you you're wrong.
Definitely feels that way at first though.
Oh yeah. It feels like, how dare you? Yeah. I've been doing it this way. It's been protecting me. Yeah. And then, but it's not wrong. It's like juggling. A lot of people can't juggle.
A
like 3 or 4 balls at a time. And so it's like, hey, if you did this and this, and they're like, oh, don't tell me how to do it. I've never done it. It's like, this is how you get better.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to listen, well, don't get better and try something different or do it.
Yeah, that's definitely me. I struggle greatly because I always take everything as an attack almost on my character, what have you. And I've had to work on that a lot. It's like, oh, okay, well, they're not attacking you. They're just letting you know that, hey, this could be better, what have you. But I definitely take everything personal, and it's not good.
Areas of opportunity. If you have an area of opportunity in your life that you can work on, improve, do yourself a favor, do it. Yeah. Take the step.
You'll get a lot further.
Yeah. Something I wanted to talk about in the next episode, but I'm going to bring it up now. The word independent. Independent woman, independent man. What does that word mean to you? What does that word mean to you before, now, and now?
Oh, man. I would definitely say I struggle with this because I am, the word means the same at all times for me. No, I would just say independence, like that. I always want to go back to this song. That's why I was saying IND. Because like, you want to make sure that you can care for yourself. You want to make sure that you can provide for yourself. You want to make sure that like you're not relying on somebody else to make a living or to make a life. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't necessarily say that like you're not, whenever you're in a relationship, you're not relying on people, but you kind of are. And so like, I want to be able to be successful on my own, but I'm also working on realizing that like I can do that and still be successful at home and in a relationship. And it's not necessarily like about being independent so much as it is about like welcoming
interdependency.
Yeah.
I know I just threw that word on you a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's very new. And so it's like, because it sounds terrible, but I was raised in what you would consider a broken home. My biological parents are not together and haven't been for the majority of my life. Like I think I was 2 when they split. I may have even been younger than that, honestly. And so my sister was much older. She was she's 8 years older than me, so I don't know how old she was when they split. And so she looked at my mom and she said, "What are we gonna do?" And it was just me, my mom, and her. Yeah. And my mom said, "I'm gonna teach y'all to not need a man." Mm-hmm. And
how has that affected dating and relationships?
For me, a lot.
Moving back to the word independent, now that you...
Yeah, so that, I think, I never knew that my mom, like, said those words up until, like, obviously until I was much later in life.
Yeah.
But I obviously remember that conversation because when I tell you that stuck in my brain like no tomorrow, that's stuck in my brain like no tomorrow. Like, I've always been... I would say me and my sister, I would always say that I'm more of like I don't need you. Please sit to the side. Where my sister's like, oh, I want you to love me and things like that. And I'm like, go on. I can do this by myself. Yeah. And so I would definitely say that it's probably been a bigger issue in our relationship more than any other relationship, because any other relationship I wasn't.
Speak about that.
Any other relationship I wasn't in that relationship for the long haul, I guess you could say. I mean, obviously when you're in the relationship, you think it's for the long haul and blah, 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 sure. But I clearly knew that was going to last. But like with ours, it's hard to separate the two, if that makes sense. Like separate being independent from, what did you say? Interdependency?
Mm-hmm. Interdependent.
Because it still, to me, feels like I'm relying on somebody else to like make sure that I can be successful, if that makes any sense. And so it's like, I have to rely on somebody else. Like, what do you mean?
But
Are you sure? What if they screw up? What if they do this to me? What if they do that to me? It's like, and so it just puts me uneasy because, like, I don't know. I always want to make sure that I can be bad all by myself.
Yeah, you can be bad all by yourself. And if you're on your independent woman shit and you're single and you're doing your thing and you're by yourself and you're not entertaining other people's feelings, you're not bringing somebody along, that's great.
Yeah.
When you get with somebody, you have to let that independent shit go. And I'll say it again because you probably didn't like hearing it the first time. When you get with somebody, man, woman, whatever, you got to let that independent shit go. Because when you think you could do it all, you're pushing your partner to the side. You're stepping on their toes and their position in the relationship. And if you're both just independent, why do you need each other? Why do you want to be with each other? You come together to add value to each other's life and not take away. But if you just come together and you're like, I'm gonna do me, what are you adding to each other's life except for sex, maybe?
Yeah.
Other than that, like,
and I wouldn't say that I'm in the like I'm a do me stage, but it's more like I don't know.
I'm gonna chime in and say you're finding who you are.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say like most people should probably find who they are before they're like deep into a relationship, a marriage or what have you. But I was not emotionally healthy before we got together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you've also known me through all the traumas that caused me to not be emotionally healthy. So I think it would probably be a lot different if I was with somebody else who didn't know me previous to the traumas and know me after the traumas and things of that nature and have been able to work with me through them, if that makes sense. But yeah, I definitely struggle greatly with letting the independency go because it's trauma based. A lot of it is trauma based. And so it's like
men do not want a strong independent woman. If you come at any man with I'm a strong independent woman, you will be dismissed. Why? Because they feel like we have nothing else to offer you. We can't help you out in certain situations. We can't be there for you because you want to be there for yourself. You want to take it all on by yourself. And so where does that leave us? Searching for somebody to help. And if we can't help you, there's another woman out there that wants help. There's another woman out there that needs advice. There's another woman out there that needs uplifting. And the guy will go and search that. I'm not saying lose your, what did you say, providing for yourself, or don't lose that strong will. Yeah. Like you're still that person. But now you have somebody to help you grow in life. Now you don't have to do it all by yourself. Yeah. You can relax and let some of that go because you have a partner there. And interdependency is like, I depend on you for certain things in the house. And a lot of people talk about, gender roles. You want a strong household. Sorry, you're going to fall into gender roles. Yeah. Whether you like it, whether you love it, whether you hate it, whether you don't want to hear it, whether you're like, screw off. You want a strong household that's moving forward and building, you're going to need gender roles because you're going to you're going to rely on your partner for certain things that you're not able to do. Yeah. And hopefully your partner is able to rely on you for certain things that they can't do.
Yeah, ain't no handyman, that's for sure.
Yeah. So it's like, do you want to be that strong, independent woman and stress yourself out even when you're in a relationship? Because then you're going to look at your man like, you ain't helping, you ain't doing nothing. But when he tries, oh, you this strong, bad bitch that you don't need no help. Yeah. You could do it all by yourself. And that one time you asked for him, he's confused. I thought you had it. Oh, now you're mad.
Yeah.
So.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's definitely something I struggle with.
I definitely wanted to touch on that because I feel like America puts this picture of like individualism into people's minds. But if you look at any real successful people, they have their entire family invested in what's going on. Yeah. And if everybody's not invested, then it falls apart.
True.
What do you need to address in your past in order to have a better future?
A lot. Back to the traumas that I've been through. Definitely those, just because like I know it's so cliche with like, oh, daddy issues, and everybody thinks it's cute and all that. Like, that's not cute. I can assure you it ain't cute.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people. And it's caused a lot of issues in a lot of relationships just because obviously some of the relationships I've got in were not healthy relationships either. And so just the trust aspect, like I trust barely anybody. Like when I say barely anybody, it's a big issue at work. Like I'm constantly questioning like uppers. And I'm like, are you sure you did this? Are you sure you did this? And they're like, yo, you need to chill. And I'm like, hey, it's just in me, like, to not, like, if I don't do it, I don't know that it got done, kind of thing. And so just trust is a big one for me. And then obviously like some of the relationship traumas I've been through as well, which I feel like I've dealt with the majority of them, honestly, just up until now. Like I can't think of any that I haven't really like went head on, except for a lot of childhood issues that maybe I haven't addressed. But
and for men, like women are like, you got mommy issues, and so a lot of men don't know how to love. Because they seen that strong, independent woman at home and this and that. And they didn't have a man to show them what to do with a woman. They didn't show them how to court their woman. So that it's.
Or some people grow up in very unhealthy households that, I mean, I was in a relationship that was a result of a child growing up in an unhealthy household. And so they behaved the same way that their father behaved because that's what they thought was normal. And I'm the first to tell you it ain't normal.
It ain't.
And I was not going to raise my child in that household.
I remember the first time, well, not the first time, but whenever we first started dating and he was seeing me more often and he would hit me. And he hit me about one time. And that was.
I'll never forget that day.
And everybody looked at me like, what the world? I was like, it ain't going to happen. Not around these parts.
That was sad too, because that was a hard realization for me of like, oh, so he did see things, and those things did affect him, because obviously I was very young and immature, and I was like, oh, he's a baby, it doesn't hurt, blah blah blah, nothing will affect him. Wrong. So that was a lot. And then obviously when we were much more into our relationship, when questions started getting asked about things that had occurred that I didn't know that he remembered. And
that was trippy.
Yeah, it was, because it was like, what? Like, it was a big eye opener for me. And so that was when I realized, like, oh, these things that people do in their life, like, say, for instance, adults that behave that way, a lot of it's based on what they seen as a child, what they were taught is okay as a child, and things like that. And sometimes it's still like their parents are still in that.
If nobody corrects it, or they don't correct it themselves, like, it's normal. This is normal. My parents, they're still together, so why can't I do it and still be together? So that's
times change.
I'll say, and back to the mommy issues, like with my mom, with my mom and dad not being there, I always, and still up to this day sometimes, like, I think I'm not gonna be loved. Can't nobody love me. Why would another woman love me if my mom left to find love from somebody else? But now as a parent and being married, the love for your spouse is completely different than the love you get from your child. And no matter how much your child loves you or wants to be around you, or it doesn't compare to.
It doesn't fill that void.
So that, now that I'm older, I see like that's what my mom was chasing, but at the same time, it left me with a big void to fill.
And it's crazy to me because, like, knowing your mom's parents, obviously your grandparents, like, they're like phenomenal humans, and like the two of the greatest people I've probably ever met in my life, and have a beautiful relationship and things, which obviously came with trials and errors that we've obviously discussed with them and stuff. But like, it's crazy to me to know that like you can still grow up in a wonderful household and still have those issues. Because like your mom had both her parents and
granted, like, I don't know what her dating life was whenever she was younger.
True.
And I don't know, aside from like the abusive relationship she was in whenever I was a child, And that was, as far as I know, it lasted for like 8 or more years.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. So that
can really screw somebody up.
Yeah. I mean, it was terrible. So that probably also played a part in it. But at the same time, like, I was a child and I was protecting my sister. And it was a matter of, I see that you're out here doing this and not feeling great when you have 2 kids here that love you. What's going on?
I mean, that's very similar to me, because I remember when I was 16, I very vividly remember we had a family meeting on one of the times my father was in rehab. And before he could get out, you know, you had to have family meetings and things. And I finally told him that I questioned his love for me, because if he loved me, how could he go off and be on drugs and not talk to me and things like that? And like, that was the first time I realized that like somebody can love you as hard as they possibly can, but there's still that void that they're trying to fill. And it sucks to know, because like my father did have a very rough childhood, and I'm not saying that's okay, because the way he turned out is not okay. Yeah. But he chose, like, there's 2 paths you can choose. You can choose to learn from it, or you can choose to waller in it. And he definitely wallers to this day in it.
It's like the story of the 2 kids that came from alcoholic father, and one chose to be like the father, and one seen what it did, so they chose a different path.
I mean, and that's literally me. Like, everybody blames, oh, well, like, I've had plenty of friends who have been on drugs, and they're like, well, this is all I've known. Well, great, that's all I knew too. I literally took my father in and out of rehab. I can't even count how many times.
Got a choice.
I purchased him clothes while he was in rehab, just for like all that to be thrown in the trash for drugs. Yeah. And it's like, I chose the high road, and I'm not going to do drugs. I'm not going to even attempt it. One, because it's very proven that my family has an addictive personality. And 2, like, I just never want to go down that path, because I seen how destructive it was for me, like, to feel that way. Yeah. And I would never want to do that to my kids. But yeah, you definitely realize that, like you said, your kids can love you, because I definitely love my father more than probably should have, but it wasn't I could not fill that void that he was trying to fill. Yeah. And I'll never be able to.
It's so crazy. Like, from the moment we're born till the moment we die, we're always learning, but at some point, some people stop. Yep. And they're like, this is enough. And I'm good with what I know. I'm good with where I'm at. There's nothing else out there. And some people never even leave their, like, block.
That's so crazy that you say that, because we were talking at work the other day about how, like, this person that I work with is from, like, a very rough part of New York. And there's a lot of, like, drug dealers and gangbangers and things. And they said that they literally, there's people there that have never left a 5-block radius, and they make thousands of dollars and have the ability to leave, but it's too scary.
They have no idea what else is out there.
Yeah. And it's like, how could you go your entire life and never leaving? Yeah. But then when we lived in Colorado, and I was at the gas station, and some girl, I don't even remember what the cashier said, and she was like, oh no, I'll never leave Colorado. And like, what do you mean? Like, you're not going to travel? You're not going to go see what else is out there? And she was completely serious with, she will never go outside the state. And I was like, that to me is insanity. Yeah. But I guess that to them, that's comfort.
An entire world, like, an entire world.
I want to see it all. Like,
and it baffles me that people are like, and the one person dear close to us, your father, your dad. Mm-hmm. It's like, if his go-to words is, I didn't lose anything, I ain't going. Yep. And it's like, oh Lord Jesus.
That is crazy.
There's
like,
people out there that...
We went to freaking Japan, and this man literally said, well, I didn't lose anything there. Why would I go? Yeah. What do you mean?
There's so much different food. There's so much different... Their toilets are different.
Their water.
Exactly. It's like...
The water is beautiful.
Even if, like, it's not intriguing, or, like... Nobody's saying move there or move somewhere different.
Yeah, it's like, go visit.
But go see it. Go... talk to somebody that's from a different part of the world, because whenever when we move, people think Oklahoma, because we're from Oklahoma. People think Oklahoma is flat farmland, and all we do is shovel cow patties and fucking bale hay. That's it.
It's literally no joke.
How what kind of world do you live in that you really think that like that's all people are doing?
It's so funny because like obviously I'm getting a very I'm getting a very hard time, if that makes sense, or I'm being given a very hard time.
Yeah, you're being given a hard time.
Okay, like that didn't sound right, but because obviously where I'm from is Oklahoma, but where we live is not Oklahoma. And
they're appalled.
Appalled is an understatement.
You guys have actual jobs other than horse and buggies that
literally
plow a field.
Literally, the other day they were like, "What is there to do?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's a city," and they're like, "No, like this is a city." And I'm like, "Okay, well, it's a town if you want to call it a town, because like obviously where we're from is called T-town or whatever." Yeah. And so great, yeah, it's a town to compare to some like cities are 1 million plus people. It's like, okay, well, that's not necessarily the truth, but I'm from a very big city like Tulsa. Like now it's even bigger known because the Tulsa race riot's getting more attention and things of that nature. And it's a cheap place to be rich. And so there's a lot of millionaires moving to Oklahoma because it's cheap as crap.
Cheap.
And so, but literally the amount of people that are like, don't you just bale hay? And I'm like, I've never baled hay in my life. So
most of those people come up from Texas whenever they go to like the rodeos and stuff.
And like if you think I have an accent, you would be shook to listen to somebody that actually bales hay talk.
Oh, Lord have mercy. It's like that guy we went parasailing was on the boat with us and his kid and the kid's friend. Oh, yeah. Jesus.
As soon as he opened his mouth, we knew exactly where he was from.
We looked at each other and we were like, what the hell? We're all from Oklahoma. And he said it. And I said, oh, yep.
But yeah, we don't sound like that. And we definitely don't bale hay. There's sporting events you can attend. We used to have amusement parks. There's still amusement parks you got to drive like an hour plus too.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot to do, kind of. I mean, it's obviously not as fun as living in like Denver or New York or
everywhere you go.
Dallas
is the same thing with different people.
100%.
Everywhere you go, it's the same thing with different people. And I say the same thing as in like, you're going to run into people who hate their job. You're going to run into people that hate the town, and you're moving into a new town. You're like, oh yes, this is a new start for me. And then you start working and people are like, oh, I hate it here. Why did you move here? There's nothing to do. And it's like, you moved there for a reason. And if you're going to be around the same people talking the same thing from where you're from, it's going to feel the same way.
Yep.
So you definitely have to mind your environment, audit the people you talk to, because people quickly drain your energy.
That was always me. Like anytime when we lived in Oklahoma, when we moved back or whatever, and I would meet people and they'd be like, oh, I'm not from here. And I'm like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, why did you choose Tulsa? Yeah. Why did you choose Oklahoma? Like, because to me, it was so like of all the places in the world, if I had to look at a map and pick where I wanted to live, it would never be Oklahoma. I don't know why, but like the cost of living, yes, is phenomenal. It's cheap as crap, but you also get that same energy from people being cheap as crap. Like,
yeah,
if that makes sense.
Ooh, say that again. I don't think y'all caught that.
Like, it's cheap as crap, but that gives people that energy as well to be cheap. And so it's like, not saying like I want the fancier things in life, but like,
you want the fancier things
I want the fancier things in life. And I want to.
We'll probably talk about that next episode.
Yeah. Like it's just crazy to me that like people would rather live bummy to have a little couple extra dollars than to like work harder to have those couple extra dollars in a nicer place.
Like, environment.
Yeah.
The people you surround yourself with. Let's pick that up on the next episode, because that's hot tamales right there. Y'all got to hear that.
Because we've lived several places, so it's like we can definitely attest to like the environment in those places.
Yeah.
Based upon like cost of living and I would say intelligence, but
intelligence. There's different parts of intelligence. Where you live at in the world matters 100%. Because
schooling is different everywhere.
It's
not supposed to be, but
yeah. And before we wrap up, kind of like the COVID thing, you went way up north. You were in Boston, doing things. Life is completely different up there.
Completely,
the world is completely different.
Like
when we were being in Oklahoma, they didn't really care about masks.
No, that
they
was not
didn't care about doing anything.
In Boston, you step outside your room without a mask and you're frowned upon. People basically want to shoot you dead. Yeah. It's like, okay, my bad. Like, I forgot. Like, it was very hard, like, when I would come back home during, like, trips home, because I would be so used to wearing a mask. And it even got to where you had to have, like, your Vax card to do anything up there. And it was just like, what in the world? And then when you go back home to Oklahoma, they're like, you get frowned upon if you're wearing a mask. They're like, why are you wearing that? It's like, oh.
And I would try to talk to people like on social medias from different parts of the world, because they would harp on, people would argue and get mad. Like, this is what we're doing. We need to do this. We need to have everybody masked. We need to shut down the country. But there's so many different rules in every different state. To be arguing with somebody out of state or in a different part of the world that's not going through the same, what they say, mandates or restrictions as you are.
Well, and they did say in Boston, they were like, it literally was like their morgues were overfilled with people. Like, they had it, in my opinion, they had it worse than where Oklahoma, like, we didn't have bodies laying on the side of the road, basically.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so different.
Yeah. And like, to them, they had to take it more serious.
You don't know.
Yeah.
And that, like, people were in California, they couldn't go out to restaurants, they couldn't do anything. Meanwhile, like, we're living normal life.
Yeah.
And you're like, you guys need to go in the house. Well, our part of the world right here is completely different than the world you're living in right now, even though we're in the same country.
100%.
So
it was definitely, I'm thankful that we lived in Oklahoma during the start of COVID, just because I feel like being in like a more relaxed state, we got to see it more through, if that makes sense. Because obviously there were people dying. COVID was happening. Everybody was getting sick and things. Yeah, I'm like, obviously it was happening, but it wasn't as severe as like some places.
Yep.
And like, there's people that are homeless now because of that. And like, so thankfully, you know, obviously when COVID did first happen, my job chose for me to be one person that they kept on, which I'm so thankful for. But it was still very hard to be that one person, because we had to make sure we weren't getting sick, because at that point the company relied on you because they done laid off everybody else. Yeah. And so, but also people were very thankful for you working. And so like at the time I worked at a restaurant as a server, and the amount of money that was made in the first 2 to 3 weeks before all the pandemic money came through. Because believe me, when that pandemic money came through, people were throwing at us like water. But before that pandemic money came through, the amount of people that were just like going over the top tipping because they felt bad that we were stuck at work was crazy. That's like crazy. If I'm being honest, I paid rent like twice in 1 week in the beginning of COVID, and it was like, geez Louises, like people were literally throwing money at us, and like, don't you need this?
They ain't never seen it. They never seen that. We'll say that for another topic. To wrap this up, any fine words for the folks? A pineapple and palm tree moment?
Yeah, I've never asked you.
Oh,
what would you rather be, a pineapple or a palm tree?
Well, I would like to be tall, like a palm tree. However, I definitely would want to be a pineapple, because it takes time to grow. One, it only grows in certain environments, and you have to be patient with it. You have to be patient with it. And if you're not patient with it, you're going to get not a ripe pineapple. I don't know what it'd be.
Not even be half grown.
Yeah. And so like, for me, to the point now, if I was younger, I'd be telling myself, give yourself time, take time. Don't be so hard on yourself. The voice in your head is not your voice, because the mind is telling you things that you're talking to it with. Yeah. So that's not you. And just take your time with it, because at the end, it's going to be something beautiful. It's going to be something sweet. It's going to be something that looks nice. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because this influencer that I follow, she posted a video of a pineapple that she's been growing, and she said she planted the head of it like 2 years ago. And like to see like the leaves were huge. Like I don't even know. It's kind of weird how it grows. It grows out like the center. I've never seen like a pineapple actually being grown. If that's a word. Well, I did when I was a child, but that was a long time ago. But like it grows out the center, but there's like these huge leaves that come out previous. And she was like, I've been growing this for 2 years, and like this is as far as it is. And it was still like pretty small, and it was cute, but it was like, that's crazy, because I've heard like some pineapples could take up to 7 years to grow. And
have the patience of waiting for that pineapple, or even in like our relationship growing. Like it takes time
100%.
When you get with somebody, and you're not great right off the bat. Like this is it.
No, if you're great right off the bat, you're probably not going to.
It's like in 5 years, we're going to have some different conversations. In 10 years, we're going to have some different conversations.
When people change all the time, like they say, like just like your taste buds change or whatever, like people change, like your interests change and things like that. So you have to be willing to be open to growing. Otherwise, what are you going to do?
You got to be willing. You have to be willing to be open to growing. Mind, body, and soul. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. Until the next episode of Pineapples and Palm Trees, I'm Corey Marcus.
And I'm Felicia Marcus.
Peace out.
See ya.